What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn. Gabe, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Nothing much, brother. Had a good weekend. Hung around the house, moved some things out of my old office, threw away a bunch of furniture, and we're getting ready for the baby. We're about to start painting and do all that stuff for the nursery.
Sounds like that is kind of like the weekends for the foreseeable future. I know.
I think Kenny brought it up a couple weeks ago. Yeah. That's what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Did you have a good weekend?
I did. Had a great weekend. We went out to eat on Friday night, me and Anna Ruth and sister, brother-in-law, and the baby. We went out, ate some pizza. Saturday, had a bunch of family and friends over at the house. Concluded the night going to Andrew and Michael's Italian Kitchen with Anna Ruth and her family to celebrate her mom's birthday.
Can't hide money, brother.
And then had a super chill Sunday. But yeah, Andrew Michael's Italian Kitchen.
Fire. Still haven't been. Still need to go.
So good.
Yeah, everything they do, pretty good.
Yeah.
Everything Andrew Michael does, yeah. Andrew, yeah. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I still haven't been though, brother. It's kind of wild.
That's the only one, about it for a while. Only one you haven't been to out of their restaurants.
Have not done it.
You got to do it.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I told
you this before, but you got to do it.
Yeah. So did Kenny tell you what my project was last week?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up since we didn't have too much of a weekend recap before we get into this week's show talking about Memphis football and Memphis basketball. Gabe was interviewing Danny Barlow last week, who is like the only UFC fighter from the Memphis area. And I'll kind of hand it to you. How did it go? And kind of
it was great, man. He's a great interview. I'll say that off top. I can't wait for our audience to be able to take in that content. Should be coming out later half of this week. Before he fights Nikolai Verenetikov this weekend in a UFC fight night. It'll be in Vegas, so I'll be tuned into that. But dude, I did more than interview him.
Yeah,
I got in there, did some drills, some top and bottom drills. I took a couple of kicks and some knees from him in the Muay Thai clinch. Yeah, it just shows that he's 10 times closer to John Jones than I'll ever be to him. That's just how it works. He's probably 190 to 200 pounds walking around before he cuts weight. And me doing bottom drills, it took like 5 seconds. He locked my legs out, and I'm like, all right, get off. This is terrifying. I couldn't imagine, man, being taken down by a real UFC fighter and having to stay there for 5 minutes. That would be brutal.
I think it's kind of cool because let's make a deep cut out of this. Let's take it even further. So you have competed against professional athletes before,
yes,
obviously in the football sense, whether it was, at Memphis playing against guys that would be future NFL players or in rookie minicamp for the Saints. So you've seen professional athletes, been around professional athletes, played against them. How wild is that difference? And not talking about it in the football sense, because we've heard you talk about that before, and not that you have any fighting experience, so it's a little bit different, but for someone who's like 100 pounds less than you is, for all intents and purposes, like an up and comer, like a newer guy in the UFC. This isn't like a bona fide.
And he's a striker, by the way. He's a striker.
He's not a bona fide superstar. He's not a top 15 guy yet. Like what kind of skill jump does there have to be in a sport like? I imagine it's wild.
No, what blows me away more than anything is just like the stamina, the straight up like breath that they have when they're doing the top and bottom drills, when they're on the mat. I cannot even relate. I can't even begin to relate how freaking in shape and conditioned they are. Like the amount of, like, you can ask Kenny, I huffing and puffing after like 5 seconds of just trying to squirm out of there when he's in top position. It was brutal.
I gotta come in.
They were making fun of me we had Brian Hall and Danny just making fun of me, like, brother, you're breathing this hard. We do this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. I mean, part of it was, Gabe, let's be real. It was hot as hell inside that
No
gym.
AC. No
AC. And they do that on purpose. Like, that's not on accident. And we get in there, and like me and Gabe stand on the scale, and it doesn't register our weight. Number one. It goes error on both of us. We're like, damn. Number
like,
one.
Only the highest we're doing is heavyweight, so like 260. So anything higher than that, nope, can't do it.
And so again, like Danny is a fighter, but he's literally like 205, Christian. Like he's a smaller guy, I think, in terms of like what you would consider, like, especially with the guys that Gabe is tangled with in the past.
Right, man.
Right. And it's like, I kind of wondered, I was like, what's it going to look like when Gabe gets down there and he can just put his body weight on top of Danny and like just hold it. This is what he does. Like, this is what he did. And it didn't last long. Like,
no, and like, it's not just the conditioning, but obviously it's like the fundamentals, everything they know, the technique they know. It's just nuts. Now I will say, Brian Hall, law school MMA head. We know that guy. Yeah. I did. He got me at a bottom draw. I did get up with him, but he's smaller. You know what I mean? That's very much like less than half of my weight on top of me. So that I did get up. I could bench press him off, but Danny, no shot at all. I mean, just 0% chance.
Also, you put some pads on and took some protected kicks. What do you think it would feel like to take a legit, like, real kick in a fight?
I'd fall to the ground and be knocked out immediately.
Well, and
no chance. He put me in a Muay Thai clinch and started feeding me knees. I would have been out for the count of taking one of those directly to my body. Oh. No chance. I needed a pad. There had to be a pad. Even through the pad, though, I felt it.
Yeah.
I asked Brian, I said, what is there any possible way we could get Gabe to take a body kick or something like that? And he was like, no.
Yeah, that's a liability.
He was like, bro, I want law school to stay in business, man. Like, you know.
So he handed me that pad and he's like, here you go. We can do it this way. Just don't sue us on the back end.
And I'm sure you appreciated the pad.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, you'll see it on the video when it comes out. You'll see it on the package. He was doing his left body kick, which is his strongest kick. I didn't even ask him to throw his left hand because that wouldn't have been smart for me to do.
No.
But he throws his left kick, and I'm like, all right, let's do like increasing. So he throws it about 10. You hear a whack, and you're like, okay, that's about 10. Goes up to 20. And then after that, I'm expecting like 50 to 100. And he turns and he just feeds me one as hard as he possibly can right down my right side. And it sounded like a damn gunshot went off. Ask Kenny. It sounded like I couldn't even tell you. It was like, ridiculous.
It's like when you get out there, you know how when you swing, Christian, you're into golf now. When you swing your golf club,
it's just pure,
and you hit it, you're swinging hard, and it hits pure, and there's like almost like a whip sound that comes through the air. That's what his leg did.
Yes, and then guess what? Right after he finished that one, he goes, "Yeah, it was about 30%." So then he fed me a couple more at about 75%. I said, "No, I felt that one. I'm done.
I'm gonna call it a day."
Yeah, I'm about to be a father. I can't be doing this.
Yeah, dude. I was telling Taylor about what I was planning on doing the day after, like, that morning. And she's like, you have a kid on the way. Is this the smartest thing you can possibly do? I'm like, yeah, I'll get lathered up. I'll get a sweat going. We'll be okay. It'll be fine. I'm tough.
Is it not crazy that those dudes just take those on routine? Like, I know they wear a lot of pads in training camps and stuff. Yes, they still do sparring and everything. But the fact that they do that in real fights, like multiple times a year, is that not insane?
What I was thinking about, his like left body kick, he probably throws that same kick directly to someone's leg.
Right.
Could you fucking imagine?
No.
If he threw that 100% at your knee.
No, at your calf.
At your calf.
Oh my God. With that.
I'm going down so fast. Like, it just takes such a different breed to do that. It's unreal.
Your pain tolerance has to be nuts.
Insane.
Like, just insane.
Can't imagine it. All right, Kenny, are you staying in or are you jumping?
And by the way,
I'm
just so
out.
we're clear on that pain tolerance thing, he did win his official opener in the UFC with a broken arm.
Yeah, he broke it in the first
He
round
broke his arm and won the fight.
and knocked out
By
Josh
knockout.
Quinlan and knocked out Josh Quinlan in the third round. And Josh Quinlan's a dude. Like he's an actual
he's been fighting
guy.
for a while.
He's been fighting for a minute. I'm excited. August 10th, he's fighting. You know his name, Gabe. I cannot wait to see what he does there, man. It's going to be so much fun. Anyway,
Did I get lost for a second, guys? Is that what happened?
Just for a second.
All right. Well, I'm back. Ready to go.
All right, Kenny is going to jump out. And we're going to transition the conversation into University of Memphis related topics. We're going to start with Memphis basketball primarily because we have not had any Memphis basketball to talk about over the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to be honest, Gabe, this conversation is not going to be a super crazy one because there's still not much going on. But Kenny did send us some analytics from Bart Torvik. And for a team that hasn't been talked about as much, especially nationally outside the city of Memphis. And part of that is probably because we're in August right now, so it's not really that time of year. But also, just to conclude that the analytics, at least according to Bart Torvik, love this team. He has them at 26th in the country. I think he has them winning, going 18-6 and
13-3 in conference.
I think that's excluding Maui tournament, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So the analytics love this team. Does that surprise you at all? Are you surprised by how much love is shown by analytics to this team?
Well, after Bart Torvik last year, like my intro to Bart Torvik, it doesn't surprise me. But if you would have asked me this question like a year ago, comparing the two teams, which obviously we couldn't have done, I would have been very surprised because last year the perceived talent on the team was nuts. This year, It's not even close to where it was a year ago. They got like a bunch of dudes. They got a bunch of guys that were number 1, number 2 options on their teams. Guys, Jordan Brown won the Lou Henson Award for the best mid-major player. You had Javon Quinterly, who was an SEC tournament, all SEC tournament guy, 6th man of the year in the SEC. Like you had so much more perceived talent. But when I look through Bart Torvik and like think about what means something to him and his metrics, and by the way, Bart Torvik's going to be used by the committee this year, so this helps. This is pretty nice. It's a predictive metric that takes everything into account. When I look at this team, it doesn't surprise me now knowing what I know about Bart Torvik because defensively they have a better identity. They have more ball handlers than they had a year ago. And I just think generally their front court is deeper and more well put together than it was a year ago. So, yeah, I guess surface level, you could say this team's not as talented from a perception standpoint, and they are ranked higher than they ever were in Bart Torvik. But when you break through what means something to Bart, this team definitely is way more capable of being a tournament team, not floundering out by the end of the regular season and in conference season. I think it makes sense knowing what I know.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think even in a different realm than that, I think it's a testament to the way that this team was assembled, because even though it's not really a group of players that's going to grab headlines, especially outside of PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter. I think it just shows you how well constructed this roster is from top to bottom, and the depth that they have at multiple positions and the differing skill sets that these players have, that they complement each other well rather than clashing and being too similar, which I think we saw some at times last season. I think you have a team that pretty much has shown at their previous stops that they can know and understand a defined role, that most of them can play defense at a high level. And even if they aren't maybe the most talented defensive players in the world, they at least have a defensive IQ. They at least understand how it works, and they do certain things well. And so I think overall, it just shows that this team is put together well.
What I think is interesting, though, not only Memphis at number 26 and Bart Torvik's sort of rankings, his predictive metric, he did have like averages for all the guys on the roster. He says Tyrese Hunter is going to be the leader in minutes distribution with 84% of the minutes being played by him, but he has him as sort of the ringleader alongside PJ Haggerty. Tyrese Hunter, 15.6 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists per game. PJ Haggerty, 77% of the minutes, 16.8 points per game, 4.4 rebounds per game, and 3.5 assists per game. Colby Rogers and Dane Dane just sort of follow them up as points per game leaders. Colby Rogers, he has at 13 points per game. Dane Dane at 11.6. So I looking at some of this stuff, it feels like there's going to be more balanced scoring than there was a year ago. And outside of the defensive identity, I think that sort of helps him propel them up in his metric more than anything.
Yeah, and touching on the points per game, honestly, like you mentioned it, 15.6, 16.8, 13, 11.6. I think that's, especially at the collegiate level, I think that's so much better than having one guy that goes out there and scores 23 and then having 3 or 4 guys that maybe score like 6 to 8 a game. And I think that's because in those games where your leading scorer, if he is a 20-point per game scorer, if he's not on, then you don't have other guys that are used to scoring, that are used to your turning to and saying, okay, so-and-so is having an off night. Designs are going to you now. Like, well, the offense is going to run through you now. And I feel pretty confident, at least in Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty, that they can be guys that the offense actually runs through. And then I think you can have other games where Colby Rogers, with his shooting prowess, can be the person that leads the team in scoring. Dane Danger, depending on matchups, is if he's able to really get advantages down low against certain teams. I think he can be a guy that leads you in scoring on a couple nights throughout the year. And I think that's just, it goes back to the balance of this team. And I think you would much rather be balanced, especially with your scoring at the collegiate level, because it's just so unpredictable. You've got so much different stuff going on that it's hard for a guy to carry a team the whole year and score 20 points per game. Even a lot of the superstar players that you see now, like, they're not averaging a ton of points per game because the best teams in college basketball are well balanced enough to kind of offset that production. Gabe, do you have any other thoughts on Memphis basketball, these analytics?
I mean, the one thing I think that outside of those top 4 that I mentioned already, it gets kind of sketchy with the offensive production. I can admit that. But if you have those top 4, one of them sort of, leading the way every night, I think you feel pretty confident. And then the final thing I will say, and this doesn't really have much to do with analytics, PJ Haggerty, I think I'll ask you this too. Like, if you notice, like, I feel like the fan base and media members kind of split on if he's going to be as good as he was at Tulsa in a Tiger uniform, because you have more people around you. You're in a better program that's used to winning. You're not going to be the guy every night. So there's questions about that. And he's only a sophomore. So it's like he hasn't really played that much ball yet. But I think what the cool thing about this team is, the thing that gives me a little more hope, is you have a guy in Tyrese Hunter who played at the top level of college basketball for 3 years at this point. Right. He's 6-3 in tournament appearances. He can sort of take PJ Haggerty with him, bring him along for the ride, teach him some lessons. And I think you have like a foil between those two guys that should work out pretty well. That's why you bring in a guy like Tyrese Hunter on top of PJ Haggerty, so you have more experience. And I think that's something we're going to have to pay attention to as we head into the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even if it's not scoring, you're talking about leading the way, even if it's not scoring, even if it's by, just facilitating the offense and making him feel more comfortable in his role rather than him having to feel like Superman every time they go down the floor. I think that in and of itself helps. Even if, Tyrese isn't the leading scorer on this team, and it is PJ, I think Tyrese can help so much with his ability to control the floor and to move the ball around.
I want to make a similar, I don't even know how the right way to say it. An analogy between 2 Memphis Tiger teams. And I don't want to like anybody to assume that I am saying that the top 2 players on this Tigers team, PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter, in terms of their production and talent level, are on the same level as these other 2 guys. But let's harken back to the 2008 season. All right. You had incoming freshman Derrick Rose, who everybody knew was a superstar in the making, right? A superstar in the making. The Tigers had a team that had a bunch of veterans, specifically led by a guy named Chris Douglas Roberts. And if you think about, like, we all remember the NCAA tournament and how Derrick Rose went off. Right.
Yes.
Like, let's not forget, though, going into the NCAA tournament, and for a lot of the folks who pay attention to this show might not remember this, there was a large contingent of people that are in the know in terms of college athletics that would have said Derrick Rose hadn't done a whole lot in the regular season to make people believe that he was going to leave and go to the draft. There were conversations around Derrick Rose coming back to Memphis for a second year, until the NCAA tournament where he went nuts, right? Like went off. That year, the 2008 season where the Tigers were so good, they were led by CDR that entire year.
Yes, he was the All-American. He was the 17, 18 point per game scorer. Derrick Rose was right around 12 the entire year. Didn't really win a bunch of accolades
until he
got to the tournament.
Right. And so I'm not saying that PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter are on the same talent level as those two guys, but what I am saying is I could see that playing itself out the same way with University of Memphis this year, where Tyrese Hunter is that guy who has had he's 5th year eligibility. He has been playing high level college basketball for many years, and he will, I think, be the leader of the team during the regular season. And PJ Haggerty, I think, could end up being the guy who puts them over the top in the NCAA tournament.
You're just saying the relationship at work could be
right. The dynamics of that team and the roster at play. That's
like one guy bringing another along because he's been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Yeah, he's been in that role. And there is a difference, man. Like I know PJ has played high level college basketball. He played in the AAC last year, but this is going to be a little bit different for him. Yeah. And so there's going to be some time, I think, where he's going to have to adjust to the non-conference schedule that Memphis will be throwing at him instead of the way Tulsa did,
And you have Memphis role players instead of Tulsa role players. I think that's a big, big difference. You're going to have to learn to share the ball a little bit more, be more of an offensive initiator than, hey, I'm just going to go score, create for myself every time down the floor.
And Memphis expectations versus Tulsa expectations.
There you go. That's good. That's good.
Yes, I think that's worthy of discussion too. But it's been a pretty quiet offseason, I think, for the most part. And that's a good thing. That's an overwhelmingly good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, much better. All right, Gabe, let's move on to University of Memphis football. Speaking of analytics and rankings and polls and all this stuff, the AP Top 25, I think it was the
coaches poll.
Coaches poll. Yeah, correct. Coaches poll came out earlier on Monday, and Memphis did not make the top 25, but they were the highest ranked group of 5 team. What are they? The others receiving votes?
They are 30th. 30th. They're 5th in others receiving votes. They got 44. Boise State right behind them with 30. And then the next group of 5 worth mentioning would be Liberty at 15. Again, it continues an offseason and a preseason of high expectations, and they're going to have to reach those expectations. I honestly, I know, like, now after seeing what Memphis can be, you sort of don't think about things like this as much. But I think with preseason polls and, like, talking about those, I think this is the first time I've ever seen a Memphis team in a preseason, others receiving votes, even being a part of a poll. Even 2019, when they made the Cotton Bowl, I don't think they were thought of like this until they started winning ball games. Somebody brought me back to maybe D'Angelo when he returned for another year. They could have been thought of as others receiving votes, but I think this is the first time I can remember.
Let me ask you something about that, because I do think that's interesting. I think nationally we've heard more talked about a couple of group of 5 schools in the offseason. I think we've heard more talk about Memphis. I think we've heard more talk about Boise State and Liberty. And I think all those rosters are good. All those teams are expected to be really good teams this season. But do you think, and this may be obvious, but just to have some conversation on it, do you think expanding the college football playoff to 12 teams and having an auto bid for a group of 5 school, has that made national analysts and these people that are typically only talking about Georgia and Alabama and the top teams in the country, has it made them look deeper into group of 5 schools to just be more educated on it? What's your take?
I thought it was going to be that way, but no, because you don't see any group of 5 schools getting a nod into the preseason top 25s anywhere. Right. And you would think, like, okay, maybe one should get in, for God's sakes. Like, you're going to have a team in the college football playoff, at least try to project who that's going to be and throw them in the top 25. I think that you have to be keenly aware by the time you get to the playoffs But I'll say this: I think most of the and I think you can speak to this. I wonder if you have the same perception. I think a lot of the national college football media members still are just saying, okay, yeah, they're going to get that spot, but we don't really care. They're not going to do anything once they get that spot. They're just getting it. So I still think that they're completely dismissing the group of 5 because they don't actually view them as a threat. They don't view whatever team that's going to be as any type of threat. And after last year and Liberty playing Oregon, losing 45-6, I kind of get it. But yeah, I think there's some teams that are really trending in the right direction that recruit better than a lot of Power 5s. Like I think Boise State and Memphis are 2 great examples of that. They recruit better than a lot of these middle of the line ACC and Big 12 schools. They do.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to the perception of the group of 5, the perception of the Memphises, Boise State, Liberties of the world, it's got to be proved first. And I think there's some of that with every team in the country. Like no one's going to be crowned until you see it. And then you'll see analysis start to come up more and more about that team and where they stand and what they can do. But I think there's an entirely different level of that for the group of 5 schools. And I don't think that's an entirely unfair way to approach it at all. Because if you're going to compete with teams that are reeling in top 10, top 15 recruiting classes every year and are able to get, top 5, top 10 transfer portal classes every year and have the resources that these schools do, I think you do have to prove it. I don't think there's anything unfair about that. Now, kind of coming in with a mentality of they don't matter or they're just kind of getting that to make people happy and whatever, they're not going to do anything anyway. I think that's a little too negative for my liking. But to say, hey, look, we're not really going to put a lot of stock into a group of 5 school until they prove on the field that they can hang with these other teams, I don't think that's entirely unfair. Think about Cincinnati several years ago. They had to earn that. Like they had to earn being talked about. UCF in 2018 or whatever, 2017.
But also think about how much they had to damn prove Cincinnati.
Yeah,
they had to go on the road against Notre Dame, and then they barely even had a shot at the top 4 being in the playoff.
You're right. And it's a different landscape now because of the expansion and stuff like that. But I just think for any group of 5 school to get true respect from national media, national analysts, national college football fans, like they're going to have to look like world beaters. And that's just the truth of the matter. Like you can't, if you're going to go play Charlotte and win by a touchdown, then no one's going to take you seriously. But if you go beat Charlotte by 50,
sure,
then people will, winning other games, then people will take you seriously. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
The only thing I'd say to push back, right, is I think you say they don't really crown teams until they show it. I think they crown some of these middling Power 5 teams, Power 4 teams so quick. Like Oklahoma at number 16 in this poll. Are you shitting me? What you really, after last year, they lose Dylan Gabriel, they lose some guys of the draft. Do you really think that Jackson Arnold's going to come in and just light the world on fire in the SEC? USC at 23 with a new quarterback, no Caleb Williams. They were 7-5 a year ago. Gave up 42 points to Colorado.
Right.
Like they just weren't that. I don't know. I feel like they do crown some of these Power 4 teams before they even show it on the field. And I would argue that sometimes these group of 5 schools, when they're returning a lot of guys like Memphis in particular, like I feel like they should get some similar treatment to some of these middle of the line, Power 4 schools, given what they're returning, what they have coming back, the amount of continuity, the production you've already seen from those guys. It's just strange to see them. I think in this day and age, you never see them in any preseason top 25 polls. You just see them in others receiving votes at best, and then you have to work your way up. And I get it, but I also I don't see the same type of treatment for some of these really average Power 4 schools.
Yeah, no, you're right. The treatment is not the same, but
it shouldn't be because you're not playing the same competition. But I don't know. I think there are situations where they probably should throw a group of 5 school into the top 25 and they don't.
Yeah, there should be more respect in certain scenarios, depending on, like you're saying, returning starters, previous years, stuff like that. But that's not necessarily there. Let's switch our conversation a little bit. Let's talk about the quarterback position at Memphis coming up this year. We've talked a lot about Seth Henigan. It's a big reason why Memphis is among the top schools in the country, why they're, projected to be a top 30 team in college football this year. is because they have a quarterback that's played a lot of football and been very successful for the most part throughout his career, was a freshman All-American several years ago. And let's talk about his legacy, because there's not a long list of prominent quarterbacks at the University of Memphis. Let's just call it what it is. Past, Paxton Lynch, Riley Ferguson.
Last four makes sense, though. They fit that
Brady.
bill.
Yeah, it's literally the last four quarterbacks. Past them, like, you're not going to have many household names at the Memphis quarterback position. So Seth going into this year is right up there with those four. Maybe not some of the same accolades as others, maybe not some of the same talent as others. Where do you stack him up right now heading into this season? What can he do to eclipse the rest?
From a legacy standpoint, I think he's at the bottom rung, right? Like, I think that order would be Brady White, Paxton, probably Riley, and then him. If I'm being fair in the Paxton Riley conversation, because Paxton was just phenomenal when he was here, and we were 8-0, number 13 in the country, highest ranking in program history. Like, that means something. And Riley, we made it to an AAC championship with Riley, so like I think he still gets a nod above Seth Henigan. So I think he's at fourth. But when you listen to like Tim Cramsey and Ryan talk about, Seth, who is already the leading passer in the history of the University of Memphis, like this, as much as those stats will mean, after he gets done, we'll still remember him pretty fondly. This year is a legacy making year. I think he'll have good stats, but if those stats lead to 9-3 and no AAC conference championship, they're going to mean a whole lot less, right?
Yeah.
They're just not going to mean the same. But if you get to 11-1, 12-0, make it to the AAC conference championship and win that thing, all those stats, all those records you hold start to mean a hell of a lot more. Right? Okay. Like Brady White heading into that Cotton Bowl year, though, think about that. Brady White heading into the Cotton Bowl year. Stats were fine. He was on his way to go breaking a bunch of those records. But until he got through with all of those great pieces around him, Brady was not the most popular quarterback. He was getting booed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so this is a legacy building year. I think he's fourth, but he has the potential, as opposed to the three guys ahead of him in Brady, Paxton, and Riley in that order. I think he has the chance to just immediately hop over all of them.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you can win a championship and you have a chance to make the college football playoff. None of those guys had that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at it, I agree with you as far as the legacy ranking goes. I'm going to give you some scenarios and you tell me if he jumps up or where he lands if this happens.
Okay.
He makes it to the AAC championship.
Keep him in the same spot.
Wins it.
Hop him above Paxton second. Put him in second.
Okay. Wins it, but is not the team that goes to the conference or to the college football playoff, wins whatever bowl game they're in.
Keep him in second, right behind Brady.
Keep him in second. So the only way for him to get to one in your mind is to
I think you have to go ahead and win that AAC conference championship, hop into that college football playoff.
Yep.
Be that representative. Now, I guess there is that scenario, one of the really good bowl games outside of the college football playoff. You get into that bowl game and win it, maybe, but we're going to have to see what bowl game that is.
Yeah, I think the only way to surpass Brady would be you'd have to win. You'd have to win the conference championship and you'd have to win that bowl game, whatever it is. Hopefully it'd be against a quality opponent. I think that's the only way outside of making it to the actual college football playoff.
Yeah, and I do think, like, when we talk about a talent perspective, I think right now it's Paxton, Riley, Seth, and no offense to Brady. Brady was a plenty talented quarterback, but he's fourth. I think some people just view that differently because of the legacy talk.
Yeah,
but,
I agree.
But I think even Seth this year, if he has a really good year, I think he can hop above Riley on that totem pole. Even if he really shows out, has a really good year, keeps the interceptions down, wins 11 games, I think he could hop even above Riley on that totem pole, that list.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. It's a crucial year for him. Like, he's started a lot of games, put up a lot of big stats, but outside of that, as far as winning games or gaining, team accolades, there hasn't been a lot of that outside of bowl wins, which they've been kind of lower tier bowl wins. It hasn't been,
except for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. That was a
Liberty
good
Bowl. Yeah, outside of the Liberty Bowl, the other ones were kind of lower tier bowl games. So there's a lot on the table. There's a lot in front of him. And it's crazy that we're sitting here saying going into the year that at the end of it, Seth Henigan could be number one in quarterback legacy. And that's not unrealistic. That's not us just throwing something crazy out there. Like, it's totally within the realm of possibilities that at the end of the 24-25 season, we're saying Seth Henigan is the most accomplished quarterback in school history and has the biggest legacy. So it's all ahead of him.
Isn't that just wild, though? Like, he's the leading passer in school history. He's just going to pad that. Yeah. And usually, like, when you say, oh, he's a leading passer in school history, it's like, damn, rarefied air. That guy's a stud. That's the best quarterback in the history of the program.
Yeah.
You know, like, you would just sort of default to that. But those stats are just going to look so much differently if they go 9-3 and miss out on an AAC championship.
You're
That's
right.
just the truth
absolutely.
of it. You view that through a lens of like, damn, what could have been and not what was.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate reality of sports. What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me in general? But if this team rolls through this schedule, gets the AAC championship and wins it, damn, man, that legacy is just going to – that thing's going to grow, and it's going to be nuts to see. It's going to be awesome to see, quite frankly, because I have been rooting for Seth this entire time, and it seems like he's been very loyal. Seems like this has been a good relationship with the program, the city, and the coaching staff. I'm definitely rooting for the guy, no question.
And it's kind of wild because it feels like that it's gone by. Like, it feels like it was just yesterday we were talking about him being a true freshman.
We were talking about Grant Gunnell starting over him.
Grant Gunnell was getting injured and Seth Henigan was taking over, and it's now he's a senior that's played a ton of football and, you know, is the all-time passing leader. So pretty crazy stuff. We're talking about legacy. There's no legacy I would rather talk about than that of our producer, Kenny Stubblefield, the GOAT, as we all know him. So we are going to take a quick break so we can get Kenny back in. I know we kind of teased Kenny coming out of the show and back into the show a little bit. So he'll be back on the other side with the Hot 3.
Representing your country and winning, I think I'd black out on the podium. Because when I watch these people whose names I won't remember a week from now, and they're on the podium and they have tears and I start crying because I'm like, what a moment for this person. I'm getting a little nervous talking about it right now, BK.
I would shed 3 tears.
Oh.
I wouldn't be nose running crying. Not that crying. You know, there's levels to this crying game. There's
shoulder shaking.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Even when the tears stop, you still like, that's when you used to get in trouble, though. Your parents used to get, that's when you used to get beaten.
You stop.
Yes, you better stop crying.
Exactly.
Put that thing on that bottom lip.
I'm not crying.
Right, I would definitely be up there. I would cry.
Tune in to the Night Court podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
For the first, which is hard to believe for me, the first time in program history, the unanimous selection for number 1 in the conference. How do you block that out? How do you keep them focused on, hey, we got UNA week 1, and if you lose that game, it's...
Absolutely.
You're starting off on the wrong foot, and that's kind of all out the window already.
It's got to be the communication from the day they get back in January, right? No one should ever have higher expectations than we have of ourselves. But now we got to go out and do the work. Put the blinders on, let's go get it. And it's a one game at a time approach, and we can't even think about it. You know, people are saying, oh, are you ready for Tulane on Thanksgiving? Am I ready for Tulane? I'm not even thinking about that, you know? I mean, my mindset is how do we go 1-0 today? And that's going to be the same way in training camp, right? Let's go out there, attack today, dominate the day, and it's a true mindset and an approach that our guys understand. We've got to handle our business 1 week at a time, and I can't even fathom thinking about something other than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. Yes, sir.
Kenny.
What up, boys?
What we got, brother? What we got tonight?
Is it loud? Is it pretty loud? Sorry.
It's great. It's fine. I can talk over it. I can talk.
It's interesting. I do want to apologize to all the people that are paying attention to the show today that, I had to keep coming in and out. But StreamYard is awesome for a lot of things. But sometimes, man, like, you have to because it's on a web browser, man. It just kind of stinks sometimes.
Well, and sometimes it's just me on my PC. I gotta take the fall for that one.
I don't think it's that. It had nothing to do with you.
Christian,
you guys,
Christian has talked mad shit on my PC.
Yeah, he doesn't like your PC.
On my old Samsung.
It's fair.
All right, y'all want to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, topic number 1. The Michigan Wolverines received a notice of allegations that are kind of becoming public, and man, obviously Jim Harbaugh has left Michigan and went off to the Chargers, and he has escaped all the blowback and the heat from this, which feels I don't know how y'all feel about that.
Dirty.
I don't like it. In this notice of allegations, they said that if Jim Harbaugh decides to come back to college, he could receive a show cause based on these notices, which is crazy. But new Michigan head coach Sharon Moore is all over this thing. He's received level 1 violations, saying that he deleted 50-something texts between him and Connor Stallions in order to I guess subvert the conversation, the investigation into what happened. Man, what's going to happen with Michigan? Is this as bad as it looks?
They said they're not going to strip. They don't believe they're going to strip the national championship, right? That's what they're saying.
In my opinion, though, if the NCAA wants to be a long-standing organization that has teeth, I think they would do that. They should do that. But that's just my opinion. I think we're looking at a suspension for Sharon Moore at the least, though, which we've seen didn't really matter with Jim Harbaugh.
Can I ask you something before you go further into this? Do you think this is why they hired Sharon Moore?
I think it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because it's like
we're talking about a coach at a program that just won a national championship that has no legit head coaching experience whatsoever.
But he was the assistant head coach for a couple of years there.
They didn't want to get anybody. Nobody else would come.
And so people have pointed this out. Is the thought they needed one of them behind to take the blame?
That's what I'm saying. They had to
maybe that was it. But also, I think we got late into the coaching search process, coaching carousel, and then Jim Harbaugh took the job, so they were sort of left with their hands tied. Because also, you could make the case if they hired outside of the program, they could have done the Tennessee thing and avoided a lot of that stuff. Because Jeremy Pruitt, was nowhere to be found. They self-reported, and they're not really taking a whole bunch of, they don't have a bunch of punitive action, put against them because nobody from the Jeremy Pruitt era is still there. So I guess it could go both ways. I am of the opinion, I think there is something to it. They needed someone to stay behind and take the blame. But for those that don't know, Kenny weighed out a few of these things. 7 level 1 violations, 5 coaches got level 1 violations, including Jim Harbaugh himself. Sharon Moore deleted, you said 52 texts. Okay. And here's what's funny about that. It was the day that the Stallions report came out in the middle of the season. When are people going to learn that deleted texts are the same as texts?
They don't go away.
They don't go away. You can still go read them after the fact. We're living in the book 1984. They can figure the hell out. Apparently Stallions in that crazy video from the Central Michigan sideline when they were playing Michigan State, that was Connor Stallions in a Central Michigan hat. That they have confirmed that. And apparently, and this exceeds what I thought was what could have been a reality, right? You play 15 games a year if you're going to make it to the national championship, right? You play your conference championship and then 2 playoff games on top of the 12. So you'd say through a 3-year period, how many games should they have scouted? 45, right? 15 times 3.
Yeah.
They illegally scouted 58 times in a 3-year period. They just went above and beyond and just did way too much. Yeah. They did unnecessary shit. They went to the worst possible degree in trying to go scout people on the road. And I view it a little differently now, knowing it was 58 times. Still think Michigan was one of the best teams, probably the best team in the country last year. won that national championship, even when they had gotten caught, and they beat Ohio State, and they beat Alabama, and they beat Washington, even without having done advanced scouting on them. But, I still think what we're talking about and vacating wins and vacating championships, I think that should be on the table. I really do. Because I don't know if you've dug into the history of this. We've never seen anything like this in college football. No. Nothing even close. No. Like all these other things, all the vacated championships previously were impermissible recruiting benefits.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. This one is like, it was illegal previously. It was illegal while you're doing it, and it will continue to be illegal way off into the future.
And let's add this to the equation as well. The NCAA is known for, if you self-report, they will take it easier on you.
Right.
Not only did they not self-report, they actively try to hinder the investigation.
They freaking took guns to the damn hard drives. I'm being a smart ass by saying they took guns to the hard drives, but they took baseball bats to the hard drives.
Yeah.
They just destroyed all of them. And then the other part of it is they kind of rubbed it in the NCAA's face last year, not only by winning the Big Ten championship but winning the national championship. They acted like victims. They acted like they were being picked on the entire time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, people are saying that the NCAA is not going to go hard on them. I think if you're going to make an example of anybody, this is the best chance you have to make an example, because I don't know even if Michigan tied this up in a legal battle, I don't know if the appellate process would go well for Michigan. Yeah. I don't think you can appeal this because no one else has gotten caught doing anything close.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And what about Jim Harbaugh winning a natty and getting the hell out of Dodge and avoiding all of this? Like, I think.
Did you see his quote today, by the way?
I did see the quote.
What did he say?
Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. That's what I teach everybody. He goes, if you do something wrong, you apologize. I'm not apologizing today. I didn't do anything wrong. That was his quote. Paraphrasing, but that was it.
That's hilarious. I mean, hey.
That's right up there with, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Pretty close, but hey, he did what he set out to do, and he got out of there before he got caught. Fully. He got kind of
suspended for it. I mean,
he got kind of
okay. He got suspended for UNLV and Western Michigan, whoever the hell they
is the Penny Hardaway 3-game suspension.
He got kind of
caught. He gave a damn about those suspensions. I mean, he didn't get suspended through the rest of the regular season when they played Ohio State, but still, they were just a better team.
And he didn't stick around to see how it was going to turn out.
How do you feel about that and like the relationship Sharon Moore has with him? Sharon Moore, let's not forget, it gets put into college football lore what he did after that Penn State game, where he's crying, booger crying, and talking about like, oh, Jim Harbaugh, oh my God, if I could hug him right now, I'd hug him. And then Jim Harbaugh leaves his ass behind to get busted by the NCAA. It's like, I guess you said you'd do anything for him. He took that for what it was.
I'm sure there's been plenty behind closed doors conversations of, look, Sharon, I'm out of here and it's going to go down, but guess what? We won a national championship.
Buddy, you need to be here for it.
But
buddy, guy.
You deleted 52 texts and you actively, like, this would be a second violation for him, right? Like he got notice of allegations around the recruiting stuff during COVID. So it's not like Sharon is sitting there, falling on the sword for this.
He is. He's definitely the definition of what he's doing. But I don't feel bad for Sharon Moore in the macro, because he did do he went along with everything.
He did all that.
But also, like, for Jim Harbaugh to be like his best friend, he didn't really do a best friend thing here. Like, he didn't do a very friendly thing to Sharon Moore. Can we admit that? Now, like, deep down, I don't feel that bad. But there is that one little piece of the Jim Harbaugh Sharon Moore relationship and how close they seem to be, and Sharon Moore booger crying after the Penn State game. Like, that part of me is like, damn, if I had a friend betray me like that, I'd feel a type of way.
If you're in Sharon Moore's position, would you have taken the Michigan job, or would you have do you think there's a part of the contract that says, listen, this shit's going down, but you can't fire me? Like in the contractually, hey man,
I would have taken the job. I'm making $6 million a year. I don't give a damn. Cool.
There's that aspect to it.
Michigan's gonna fight this for me anyway, so
That's fair.
I'm not coming out of pocket to fight this shit.
Especially since they won the championship, they're gonna fight to not let the NCAA.
And also, fellas, if you fire me, guess what? You know what the best job in America is? Fired college football coach.
Yeah.
Give me my show me my money.
That is so fair. You have swayed.
I would have taken the job in a second, even though I knew shit was
absolutely.
was
You're
coming.
absolutely right. All right, Kenny, topic number 2.
All right, topic number 2. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the best teams in the NFL, and both of y'all mentioned the San Francisco 49ers and how good they're going to be all over again. And one of the things you guys said was, if they can get Brandon Aiyuk back, they will be awesome. Reports came out today saying that there's this contract thing going on we've known about forever. They're trying to come up with an agreement. It's not looking like it's going to happen, bro. Like he's going to be moving out of San Francisco, moving on to a different team. What are your guys' thoughts, man? Like for Brandon in particular, what's he worth? What's his trade value? What's his where's he at? Like how much money do you think he's going to make? And how much does this impact San Francisco in terms of their success this year?
So real quick, I'm gonna let Christian take the lead on this one. Tom Pelissero, the most recent report is that he is way more likely to get traded than sign an extension, which, to be honest, I sort of knew. That's how based on the reports on the situation, that's sort of what I felt was the reality.
Yeah, and he is on the last year of his deal. So as far as what the trade value is, that muddies the water a little bit because he's only got 1 year left on his deal. So what does a team feel like is worth paying up to get ahead of the curve, not have to compete in free agency for him, and also get him a year earlier than that before the market goes up even more? If I had to guess, I'm going to say Brandon Aiyuk is probably going to get around that $30 to $35 million a year average. I think he's going to get around the top 3 receiver average. I don't necessarily think he's a top 3 receiver, but that's just how the market works. Trade value, that is such a tough question because if someone wants to be hyper aggressive and it's let's just say the Kansas City Chiefs, for example, they don't necessarily need the first.
Please.
No,
the rest of the NFL, don't let that happen.
It won't. But let's just say that's who wanted him the most. Okay, that's a back end of the first round team. Those picks are not worth much. I could see them going a first for that, and I wouldn't fault that. You trade a first for him and sign him to a long-term contract extension, totally okay with that. Now, we've heard a lot of smoke about the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's been the big team surrounding him. Also, the Washington Commanders have been another team that he's talked about. He and Jaden Daniels, who is now their quarterback after they drafted him, they played together back at Arizona State. So there's some connection there. If it's a team like the Commanders and or the Steelers, whichever one of those teams, if they decide to pull the trigger, I'd say it probably have to be a second and a fourth, second and a fifth. I mean, they would have to pay up. They would have to pay a pretty hefty amount to be able to get him, even if it's just for that 1 year rental. So I think he is going to be expensive relative to only having 1 year left on his deal as far as trade value, and then also he's going to be expensive as far as contract value. But how does this affect the San Francisco 49ers? Does this make them not a contender in the NFC? Does it hurt their chances? As good of a player as Brandon Aiyuk is, it doesn't change my opinion on them very much. And I view Brandon Aiyuk higher than any receiver on their roster. I think he's definitely a superior player to Deebo Samuel. And that outside of that, they don't have a lot at wide receiver. But do I think it affects them that much? No, for multiple reasons. I think, one, Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius. He's done more with a lot less. So you have that going. Okay, you also still have Christian McCaffrey. You still have George Kittle, who will be able to be utilized more. You do have Deebo Samuel, who is one of the best weapons in the game. He'll be able to be utilized a little bit differently and probably a little bit more often. And then you have Ricky Pearsall, who they just took in the first round. Ooh, Sorry, boy.
Oh,
Puberty happens sometimes. They also have Ricky Pearsall, who they just took in the first round and obviously are very high on to take him at that price. And then also Jawan Jennings, someone who I think could step up that's not talked about or viewed extremely highly unless you are a very heavy non-casual NFL fan. You know how good of a player Jawan Jennings is. So I think they would be fine. Does it take away something? Yes, but they would figure it out. They would be fine. I don't think they would have that many issues from not having Brandon Aiyuk, regardless of how good of a player he is.
I just worry about Brock Purdy. You need somebody to eat up some targets, and Brandon Aiyuk was really good at that. And Brandon Aiyuk is one of the better separators in the league right now. Right. And I just not having anybody like that in your right wide receiver core is a struggle. But we'll see what Ricky Pearsall does. I know he was on the PU, the physically unable to perform list coming out of the start of camp. So we'll see if he can play. I think Jawan Jennings, I agree with you, man. I like Jawan Jennings a hell of a lot. Jawan Jennings is one of the best blocking wide receivers in the league, but he can also run a few routes and get open and make some things happen within that offense. And when they get into those play action concepts, you're bringing linebackers up anyway. They have to respect Christian McCaffrey. So I think that they wouldn't lose that much. I just think come playoff time, you need a separator like Brandon Aiyuk, and that could hurt them a little bit. As far as his trade value, I think that you hit the nail on the head. If you wanted to be super aggressive, throw a back half first round pick, and that would probably do it. But if you don't want to be that aggressive, I think you could do a second round pick next year and a fifth round pick 2 years from now, and maybe a player, or even a second round pick and a third round pick the next year after that. That's it. I saw that the Steelers are trying to be aggressive, and I think Calvin Austin was involved in one of their trade situations. Which
I'd love to see
Calvin with Kyle Shanahan.
Yes,
I think Kyle Shanahan can use a 4-3 on that offense.
Actually, was he like a 4-1? Technically, at the combine, wasn't he a 4-1?
Yeah. The laser malfunctioned.
Right.
But no, I would like to see him in a lot of spots, and apparently he has to sort of sign off on where he's going to go.
Yeah,
that was sort of the latest report. He can say yes or no.
I wanted to ask y'all this. I know in the NBA, when they're thinking about trading somebody or whatever, they always kind of put in the idea of, will this person, like Paul George, will Paul George sign an extension with the 76ers? How often do players at the caliber of Brandon Aiyuk's level in the NFL get traded without assurances that he's going to sign a multi-year contract extension with the team he's being? Never?
Almost never. We've had one example this offseason, but it's not a Brandon Aiyuk. It's Hassan Reddick with the
Jet. No.
But that was a weird situation in itself. They traded away all their depth and gave him so much leverage because they're a dumb franchise.
And sign and trades have actually become
more normal
used thing.
The Darius Sneed to the Titans was one.
Was a sign and trade, which was really unheard of until recently. So it's becoming a thing.
Yeah,
very rarely will you get someone who it's not like they're gonna sign. It does happen. It's not totally unheard of, but it's decently rare.
I think his value somewhere, but you said 30 to 35. I think 30 is fair. I don't think any higher than that. I think 28 million a year to 30 million a year is right. Perfect sweet spot for him. You get paid more than the guys you are actively better than. You get paid less than the guys you're actively worse than. You know, I think that's a sweet spot for him. Now, where do you want to see him land, just curiously, before we move on?
I mean, Kansas City's hard not to like.
Well, but I'm talking about the real contenders out there. Steelers, Commanders.
I'll tell you an interesting one that I'm looking at a list now of realistic.
Bills, maybe?
There you go. That's exactly what I was going to say is Buffalo. They lack an alpha right now after trading away Stephon Diggs, which that coincides with they have extra draft capital that they got in return for Stephon Diggs. You've got Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Dalton Kincaid. Like they don't really have anything remotely close to an alpha. Obviously, they hope Keon Coleman can be that guy, the first pick of the second round this year, but he's obviously not yet. He's a raw rookie who was raw at Michigan State and Florida State. He's not someone who's a refined prospect at this point. So Buffalo,
that would be the one that makes sense.
That would be the one I think that not only is it like that makes sense, but also would be very good for both sides because Josh Allen was not good before he had an alpha receiver.
Yep.
And I'm not saying he's going to regress to that at all. I'm just saying his meteoric rise coincided with Stephon Diggs coming into town and actually having a true alpha receiver.
If the Steelers, this is an interesting thought. I know you've been seeing the reports about Justin Fields in Steelers training camp.
Yes, I have.
He's been lighting it up, kicking the Steelers defense ass. If the Steelers want to move forward and really get that offense off the ground,
what a glow up for Justin Fields.
That could be something going into the future. You will be happy that you did.
Yeah,
when you did it. If Justin Fields is what we are being told he is in Steelers training camp.
Yeah, because then you have George Pickens, who is kind of an up and comer. You have Roman Wilson, who is a rookie. You have Pat Freiermuth as a really solid rookie tight end.
Jalen Warren and Najee Harris.
Yeah.
And then you had Brandon Aiyuk. I don't know, man. I'm just saying.
The other ones, I hope not. Like the Patriots, I hope he doesn't go to the Patriots. That would suck.
I think he'd say no to that. I don't think he'd re-up with them.
The Broncos, God, I hope not. What's another one on here? The Saints, I don't think the Saints would be terrible. I think
the Commanders. The Commanders? I don't really like either.
I think Commanders could be. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be good. They have that built-in chemistry. Terry McLaurin, Brandon Aiyuk would be a really good 1-2 punch. Same thing with the Saints. If he went to the Saints, I'm not a big Derek Carr believer, but Olave and Brandon Aiyuk would be.
Well, what about a Spencer Rattler believer? Come on, brother. Let's think outside the box here. Let's not think inside. Let's not think surface level. Let's get under the surface here a little bit. Spencer Rattler, that dude.
That dude.
Okay, whatever.
All right. Next thing, last thing.
Third topic.
Third topic, man. In a pretty awesome race, man. Probably one of the highlights of the Olympics so far this year. Noah Lyles won the 100-meter race against a pretty strong competitive class. I think it's the first time that the U.S. has won a gold medal in the 100-meter dash since 2004. I think Justin Gatlin was the last person to actually win a gold. Obviously, there was a young man named Usain Bolt that was dominating the 100 and 200-meter races for quite a long time. But Noah Lyles, in one of the more epic finishes in Olympic history, I think, in terms of racing, barely, I mean, by like, what was it? Like 0.005.
It was 5 thousandths of a second.
Yeah. I mean, just literally, it was the fact that his chest was out and that the guy from Jamaica's chest was concaved in. Like that's the only.
He was a little more upright.
Right.
Noah Lyles has that lean in his run.
Because if you look at the thing, the guy from Jamaica, his foot crossed the line first, but apparently, according to rules, it's the torso. Whenever the torso crosses the line first. So, I mean, even the announcers were like, "Oh, the kid from Jamaica won! What a great race!" And then, boom, Noah Lyles wins it. Awesome race, awesome finish for Noah Lyles. But there's a lot of folks that don't like this man. Yeah. And I can think, like, the only time I could really think of him, like, really causing any ruckus was in 2022, I think it was 2022, came out in a press conference and basically bashed the men's national team and said, why are they calling themselves world champions? They don't play against the world. Look at us. We're competing against other nations. We're the real, true world champions. Is he the most divisive Olympic athlete? Or like it?
Kind of
on him.
It was kind of funny to see like people's reactions. They're like, I'm tuning in 5 minutes to watch the downfall.
Like folks couldn't even celebrate Noah Lyles.
I think people celebrated it because it is USA winning a gold. But like, I even saw our guy Anthony saying like, tune in to see this idiot.
Anthony was like,
win. He better not lose or I'm on his ass. Like,
he's like, I'm cheering for him to lose. I was like, damn, man.
I mean, but like he should have. I mean, his comment about the NBA not being a world championship is just stupid, man. Yeah. It's been stupid. And then I one thing I didn't like is during the World Cup a couple off seasons ago, or was that? Yeah, a couple off seasons ago. He was like, going after the U.S. team in the World Cup, saying, "Oh, see, this is why we talk about World Championships." I'm like, dude, Walker Kessler's getting minutes on this team.
Right.
Like, if you're gonna pick that fight, wait till we have like everybody in the U.S. ready to go, strapped up.
Yeah.
The NBA championship is the damn World Championship. If you put the Celtics up against any other team in the world, they're probably beating them 5 out of 7 times, 4 out of 7 times in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
The Boston Celtics right now, you put them up against Team Canada in a 7-game series, they're going to win 4 out of 7. So I always hated that. But he has become just sort of the people don't like him. People don't like him. But I thought it was damn impressive what he did.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a big fan because I think those comments are very clowny in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the celebration kind of made me. I was kind of like,
Okay.
The
He held up the
celebration-
Lyles. He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't even. He got the U.S. flag way later. He did.
yeah, he
He's rubbing his
immediately as soon as he won it, ripped the nameplate off, held it up. But he was like, "What did he say? What was his quote afterwards? Like to the like directly after he won, the camera was like, "I told y'all, America, I got." Like that was pretty cool. Pretty
He did you see like the after 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 40 meters where he was placed?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!
But
yes.
first 40 meters he was
Seventh.
dead last.
Was he dead last? Oh
and
my
then through I think from 50 meters to 70 meters he was in 7th. And then he closed down the
Yeah.
last 30 meters and went and won that thing by like just I think by his nose. It was
Yeah.
because it's your torso has to cross.
Yeah.
Because I
Listen.
thought Shane Thompson from Jamaica won because his foot was
Yeah.
all the way across the damn line. I thought that was strange in itself. But Noah Lyles, man, he's fastest guy in the world, fastest man in the world. You can't take it away.
Listen, I'm not the person that should ever like give coaching advice to runners. Like, I don't think anybody's ever going to look at me and go, "Yeah, let's talk
Finish
to this
through the
guy."
line.
Yeah, like let's talk to
You're
this
one of
guy
those
about
guys.
running a 100-meter dash. But Noah Lyles and Sha'Carri Richardson, whoever's coaching them needs to teach them get off the line faster, right? Like,
Oh my God, dude, you could be an O-line coach.
like get off the line.
We
Like,
need to get you as an O-line coach.
same thing with Sha'Carri. Like, dude, she's the like. It
Go
is
off the H and hit.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Feet.
It is crazy watching Olympic level runners run. Like, it is wild how powerful they are. A friend of mine named Ryan Booth is a director out of New York, and he did a commercial for Noah Lyles last year, and he broke this thing down and said, we were doing this commercial, and one of the shots that we wanted to get was Noah coming off of the blocks and taking off. And he said that they had to literally get it in one shot because the potential for injury because of the torque that they get when they get off the line out of those blocks is so tough on the body that it literally he's like, I can only do this right at a race time, like because I could hurt myself. And so they had to get the shot. And so like it's crazy to me how unbelievably powerful those runners are. But both of them lost. Noah ended up winning it, but they both were in very bad spots at the beginning of the race with their takeoff.
To be completely fair, if they make up ground with their start, they'll easily win.
Yeah.
Like it would be simple. Because I saw Sha'Carri Richardson, she got silver, and it was really cool to see Julian Alfred, the St. Lucian, the only medal they've
Did you
ever
see the
had.
video of
That
the
was
St.
so
Lucian
badass.
people?
That was so cool, man.
Yes,
that warmed my heart, man. I got to be honest.
it warmed the
really
cockles
cool.
of my heart.
Yeah, they're there in Castries and St. Lucia and the capital. Just that's a freaking country of 80,000 people.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And they have the fastest woman in the world. That's really cool.
Crazy.
But I saw that Sha'Carri Richardson in all of her heats. So it was 4 races, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you do, I don't know how many heats you do, but whatever. She was either second to last or last in her get out speed in every single race she ran for the 100.
Yep.
That's not, make up some ground. You would be able to win that race easily if you did.
Yeah. Well, I know some other Olympic stuff. Scotty Scheffler won the gold for the United States in golf. Awesome. Dude, how fantastic is Scotty Scheffler, man?
Course record. Set the course record to win.
He's freakish, dude. I don't know what to say about the guy. I mean, he just wins and wins and wins and wins and wins and wins, and it's so consistent. And he's kind of boring. Don't get it twisted. Like watching him play golf is not like the most interesting thing in the world, but he's just so consistent.
So good.
He doesn't have any self-inflicted wounds.
No. Not at
except for driving through police barriers. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, except for when he runs into the wrong cop on one day.
except for
An asshole cop that
An
was
asshole.
completely wrong. Y'all saw the video of that stuff,
Yeah.
right?
I got dragged, bro.
You didn't get dragged at all. The car
not,
didn't even move.
not even a little bit.
He said his $89 pants were ripped beyond recognition.
Not even a little bit. I had to
Who
go.
gives a damn? You're wearing police khakis. I don't give a damn.
It was a clown show. What other Olympic stuff have y'all seen that y'all like so far? We'll close it out with this. Or what other stuff has really
Let's see.
warmed your heart,
I
Gabe?
watched the guy set the world record for pole vaulting today.
Speaking of pole vault,
Speaking of pole vault, yeah. Come on now.
Hey.
Talk about the real story.
get the
here.
gold medal stuff. Wow,
Hey,
Guy had a hog.
the man of peace.
Dude, now they're gonna start recruiting guys and they're gonna be drop your drawers.
Yeah,
You gotta see.
are
It's
we-
blocking the way. Tuck that thing away, brother.
that's all I'm speaking. I'm done.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
Have some fun. Ooh. That's
Gabe,
a
what about you?
hilarious
What did
video.
you? That was hilarious.
I mean,
I mean, honestly, is that a win for the dude? Like, you lose out on the gold medal, but
everybody's. I mean, I don't
everybody
know.
knows.
Like, will we remember him more than the person who actually wins the pole vault?
Yeah.
Like, I forgot there was a gold medal pole vault until all I know is
We
Yeah,
got
the hog getting in the way, brother.
hog and a hog, baby.
I wonder if that's happened to him in practice before, or is that the first time?
I'm sure.
He looked like he was just unsurprised by the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that you know,
That happens.
That old thing
that whole
happens. Yeah.
wasn't as
Not
bad as
surprised
Chris,
at all.
wasn't as bad as Chris Jones.
No, dude, that was hilarious. Yes,
That's a funny one.
I saw that one live. That was crazy.
But I've been watching the sprints. The 200 meter too. Noah Lyles is gonna smoke everybody in the 200 meter. That's gonna be fun to watch.
Is that
Seth Ryder from Germantown.
Yeah,
Shout out
dude.
to him. He won in the mixed triathlon relay,
Yeah,
and I guess they're swimming in the Seine River now with the E. coli scare.
apparently someone's sick from it. On it.
Yeah, I know. And Seth Ryder was the one who said that he's to prepare to swim in E. coli. He was not washing his hands. He's trying to build up an immunity, but he ends up getting the silver medal in the mixed triathlon relay, which was really cool for the city of Memphis. Went to Germantown High School.
That's so dope. He's like, man, I swam in the Mississippi River, bro. We're good.
No, he hasn't.
No, I
None of you have swam in the Mississippi River. If you did, you wouldn't be able to tell me about it. Okay.
I've been watching a lot of volleyball. The beach volleyball, the United States teams. There's 2 men's teams that are in the
Okay. You mentioned the men's teams first. I had an eye on you, brother.
the women's teams. Sarah Hughes is awesome at beach volleyball. It is fun to watch beach volleyball. It has been awesome. The men's team, the indoor men's team, just beat Brazil, which is a
Have you been watching the volleyball with Sayla? I'm sure she's into it.
Oh, dude, she's been.
She
loving
probably
it.
loves it.
Yeah, we were watching it today, man. It's a blast.
It blows me away though. Like, and listen, the women hit the ball really hard too.
Oh god.
But the men, holy God, like their serves are laser beams with downspin. I'm like, how do you save that? How do you pick that up off the ground?
Dude, I don't know, because I just got done with our season, our co-ed volleyball season out here in Carryville, our rec league co-ed volleyball season, and we played against a team that had some major bombers, and I got hit so hard one time that it hurt. Like I tried to dig it up, and it just didn't work. I couldn't imagine it with everybody on that team being able to do that. It's wild.
I was looking at, I saw it today. I think I saw the U.S. men playing indoor volleyball.
Right, they play Brazil.
And one of the kills, I guess, is what they would term it as when you spike it and it lands.
Yeah.
83 miles per hour.
That's so wild.
And that's not even the fastest.
No.
Right.
Like, and that's like you're 10 feet away from this person hitting that ball.
Nope.
There's just no chance.
Volleyball is a fun sport, and I've loved watching it. And I really, really want Syracuse to win a gold medal for the beach volleyball.
Yeah. And I'd have a broken nose if I even tried.
Me too. All right, boys, let's get out of here. We appreciate you guys for joining us. If you are watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. If you're listening to us wherever you get your podcast, whether that is Spotify, Apple, or any other platform, you can do all the same things, like, subscribe, comment there as well. You can also head over to bluffcitymedia.co, check out all the articles, podcasts, and videos on the site. Once again, we thank you guys for joining us, and Gabe and Kenny, we'll see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.